Welcome to Bitcoin Aggregated. There was a few things last week that we kind of glossed over that I was like, oh yeah, they were really important points that I wanted to chat about, and we kind of forgot because I think we got caught up talking about other stuff. So um, just wanted to sort of go back over the news feed. One of the things was, yeah, this one. So this is the video I was talking about when we were kind of going into Google and their partnership with Coinbase. Um, it's only 4 minutes, but yeah, worth having a listen
Two
to. Is
gargantuan, ginormous wins for Bitcoin.
that coming through okay?
Yep.
The first might seem slightly boring to some of you, but it's not. And it's going to lead to the second. And together, these are huge boulders in what I foresee as the coming avalanche of Bitcoin adoption. The first, an accounting change. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. Let me explain. Imagine that you're the CEO of a company and you've been considering putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet. The problem used to be that if you bought $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and it dropped in value, you would have to reflect the Bitcoin on the balance sheet at the lowest price that it ever was. So if Bitcoin dropped from $50,000 to $3,000 and then went back up to 70, you would be able to show your shareholders the value of it at 3,000. So there's downside because it has to be reflected, by the way, in the income statement, which might lead to a massive drop in the price of the stock if you have a huge loss that this would be, even though you're holding on to an asset, but there would be no gain. So what happens? The CEO, wanting to keep his job, says that's a very good reason for me not to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet because I might get fired. Now, FASB and the other economic boards have eliminated this rule and are allowing you to account for the rise in Bitcoin because, as I made a mention previously, you weren't allowed to. Even if it went up from the very moment that you bought and it went up 100 times, it would still be on the books at the same price, and you could not account for a gain until you sold it. And maybe you didn't want to sell. So now you've got people that were previously understandably concerned with potentially purchasing any Bitcoin might suddenly say, hey, there's might be some downside, maybe it goes down, but at least there's upside that I can account for in my quarterly earnings statement. Which leads me to the second.
Well, that yeah, just stop him there for a sec. I didn't realize that. So obviously, sailors kind of led the way for that for other companies, but I didn't realize it was actually a rule that they couldn't account for that for the gains. So it was sort of turning businesses off. Did you have any understanding of that?
No, no idea. Is this just a specific rule to the US?
Yeah, I
Or
think so. I think so. But I mean,
right.
that's like where all the big companies are, right? That would be investing in it. So like all the times that well, this is what I'm assuming. All the times that we thought, oh, Apple might jump in now, or Google, or something. Um, Maybe that's what was holding them back, and there just wasn't the legislation in place for them to actually utilize that. So I thought that's really pertinent. That could have a real big knock-on effect for a lot of different companies now looking to get in.
Maybe. It still feels a bit like fiat mindset though. Like who cares what you have to report your Bitcoin earnings? Like either you want Bitcoin on the balance sheet or you don't. Like who cares how it's looked upon? It's either you want to hold it or you don't. So
Yeah,
maybe it'll open up some doors, but I mean, yeah, Sailor and the likes who really have that level of conviction probably don't care about any of this shit right now. Like,
no, yeah, I think. Well, I think that what he mentioned there, though, like about the not wanting to sell, and like they have people that have to report to, I suppose. So for those people in that fiat mindset, I suppose it does open up the gates for them, and they've got a lot of capital, so it can only be a good thing, I think, in the long run. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, who gives a fuck, really? Like, it's kind of silly. But I mean, there is a lot of people in that legacy world, so hopefully it'll change some mindsets. And the second part was the Google thing.
Piece of news. Google has announced that they will be accepting via Coinbase payment for their cloud computing services, cryptocurrency. I believe that there are 14 of them, including Ether, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, and a few others.
Doge.
Now, in the past, Google would have turned this directly into fiat money. They don't want to keep it on the balance sheet. Now, and the most likely candidate that they will keep on is Bitcoin. It's a store of value of which is decentralized, which there can never be more than 21 million. Should Google do this, they would be taking some of the supply of Bitcoin off of the market and increasing demand as other companies would follow suit. When you see the big boys doing it, it suddenly gives other CEOs permission to do the same. It's the herd mentality. Somebody's sticking their neck out first. MicroStrategy did it, Tesla did it, Square and Jack Dorsey did it, now known as Block, by the way, and you will see more and more companies putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet now that the accounting standards have changed. And so my prediction is the fact that Google will be putting this on their balance sheet, which will drive other companies to adopt it because of the accounting change in part, and because Google is doing it. These are two huge boulders in the avalanche that will cause a cascade of purchases of Bitcoin as it becomes adopted as the global standard as a store of value, especially as they continue to print money ad nauseum, debasing the currency that many people hold.
I mean, he's kind of just saying what we already know, I suppose, but the fact that it's stuff happening with such a big company as Google, it's kind of exciting, I suppose. And I think like I mean, I'm not too sure about the integration of other shit coins and how that that interplays whatsoever. I guess, yeah, it's interesting. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it sounds like they're going to be accepting some of these payments for cloud services. I'm not sure what product exactly that is, but at the end of the day, we kind of already know that a lot of people don't actually like transacting using cryptocurrencies unless you're already well into doing this. Like, I can't see suddenly like a bunch of people going, oh, wow, that's so great that Google cloud services can be bought using Doge. I'm going to start doing that. Like, how many people are actually going to be doing that? Like, my guess is few. And like, I know many Bitcoiners don't like parting with their Bitcoin already. So yeah, I'm perhaps not as bullish as this gentleman might be, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it reminds me of like when annoyingly how Steam the gaming platform, they were like one of the first big companies to accept on-chain BTC payments for games, and it was wicked. It was just so easy. Like, I remember particularly at school, I didn't have to go through the regular channels of like buying games for the kids at school and stuff. We could just do it. We didn't have to worry about PayPal or getting approval from whoever to buy games, like as long as they were educational games. Boom, done. It was amazing. When they took that away, I found it really irritating. If I could play for Google services, like cloud services, which I'm already paying for using sats, I'd do that for sure.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's one of those chicken and egg things, right? Like, people aren't going to pay for stuff with Bitcoin and crypto until people start accepting those things.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Like, and we're Bitcoiners, so perhaps we're a little bit biased in this, but yeah, I'd probably do the same too. Like, I'd like to use it as much as possible in my life. But yeah, there is definitely a portion of people who purely see cryptocurrencies as an investment or a speculative thing. So they're not into it to do what the white paper abstract says, a peer-to-peer cash system. Very few people actually live that kind of mantra. They're more in it for the sick gains, right? So, but I think it's a net benefit in the end. Like, if you don't want to pay for Google services, then you just don't have to. You can ignore this news. But yeah, to be continued, I guess. We'll have to wait and see.
See what happens with it. Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, the other big one I wanted to chat with you about was, and this is something that I wanted to talk about last week and totally forgot as well. The official, or well, quote unquote official, the Bitcoin YouTube channel is being open sourced, meaning that anyone can sort of apply and upload Bitcoin content to /Bitcoin on YouTube, and there's like a whole whole GitHub repo talking about it. So I thought for us, we should definitely apply to that and see if we can get some content up there, because that's such a cool idea. I had no concept of people even like having the ability to do that with a YouTube channel. So I thought it was pretty amazing. But yeah, what's your thoughts?
First I've heard of it. Seems interesting. Have you looked into like the process? Like, so basically what you got to submit a pull request or something to
I
their
forgot
GitHub
about
page?
it until like half an hour ago. I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to look at that.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So, but yeah, there's a GitHub repo, so I'll reach out and see what the actual process is. But pretty cool. So the actual channel is, which you're probably already subscribed to. Oh, no.
One thing seems very clear, and that
I don't think I am either. I don't really subscribe to stuff on YouTube, but
Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, pretty good, pretty decent. Sailor's. Did you check out Sailor's keynote?
I actually haven't listened to
It's a good
that
one.
yet.
It's an
I
excellent
will
one.
listen to it. Yeah, I will
Definitely
listen to
worth
it.
it. So anyway, yeah, I'll reach out to them and see what the goes with that, and yeah, put an application in at least. The other one from last week was what was it? Yeah, Breed Love. So this one, it's a quick one. I thought this is really pertinent to, as it said, everyone should learn this, but to a lot of people, I think.
Money, to make it very simple, I say it's just money's a tool for trading our time, right? We sacrifice our time to earn money, and then we redeem that money for commensurate sacrifices from others. And it's this intertemporal social contract we have with one another that we negotiate through money. But when you monopolize, you put a monopolized institution on top of it, which is the central bank, and they have absolute and arbitrary authority to increase the money supply at their own whim and dole out the proceeds of that money to whomever they select. They are effectively harvesting the economic surplus off of the productive economy. So every ounce of energy, blood, sweat, and tears that people are putting into sacrificing to obtain these dollars, there's a single institution that can produce them with no sacrifice, no effort, to dilute everyone else. And in that scope, we could just say that money, for instance, like a stock certificate is title to company capital. We could say that money is title to human time, effectively. So if there's one institution that can just spin these titles up, and they just can suck property rights out of the marketplace and into their own pockets, they're stealing human time. And I struggled for a while with, what do you call that? I've called it an institution of systemized time theft, but I don't know what else to call time theft other than slavery. It's not visceral. It's not, people are in chains and there's whips on the back necessarily, but because of its invisibility, it's perpetrated at a much larger scale. And I've written about this in a lot of my work. So I hope that people will come to see it's a demystification of money, that it's just an emblem of our time, and that the market should be allowed to decide which technology is best, not a monopoly.
That was
Love,
quite good.
love Breed Love. Yeah, time as money. I think he really crystallizes things so well. But it's true,
But,
right? Like
but that's the cliche though. Like, how many times have you heard, oh, time is money? When you
yeah.
even
Time.
people like outside of the kind of financial Bitcoin space, just like that, classic
Yeah.
cliche of time equaling money. But I think people say that without actually understanding
What
the
it
relationship
means.
between those two things. But throughout that whole thing, I couldn't help but think, like, obviously Bitcoin fixes this, but like specifically like proof of work and the requirement for energy. So I think the words he used, which were quite good, were like sacrifice and something, I think it was, how, we all blood, sweat, and tears work to get our dollar, whether that's you're a tradie or you're an office worker or you're a teacher or a nurse, whatever. We're all putting in work, proof of work, to earn our paycheck. And then there's these organizations who just sit there and go, beep, and print a bunch more money, devaluing all of our money. It is a bit of a joke, and I thought he explained it quite well there.
Yeah, it's gross, isn't it? Like time theft. I think it's interesting as well, like in the white paper, like the term blockchain's not mentioned. It's actually a time chain specifically. So I
Yep.
think Satoshi was alluding to that as well, and it's just been rebranded as blockchain instead of time chain. So there's something to that for sure. Definitely something to that. But yeah, I love Breedlove. Like I could listen to his stuff for hours. Like he just breaks things down so well. Him and Sailor, like they just make really complex ideas like really palatable to anybody to sort of consume. This is the other one I wanted to show you. This is from last week as well. I forgot about this one.
Well, it could be part of the future of digital currency, or it could be a new way to clean up the environment, or it could be both. Action News anchor Matt O'Donnell pays a visit to the Panther Creek plant in Carbon County, PA, which uses the waste from old coal mines to power a Bitcoin mine.
It is 2,800 miles away from Silicon Valley. And yet the borough of Nesquehoning, tucked into a valley in Pennsylvania coal country, is the site of America's newest large-scale Bitcoin mine. What do you think about the Bitcoin mine here?
Didn't know they had a Bitcoin mine.
My father was a miner years ago, but as far as what you call it, I never heard of it that way.
Publicly traded Stronghold Digital Mining purchased the Panther Creek Energy Facility, a defunct coal plant in town, to power its Bitcoin mine. Energy industry veteran Bill Spence says he came up with the idea to make money on digital currency while also cleaning up his home state of coal refuse.
I think I'm curious, painfully curious.
You get the Bitcoin, you get rid of that.
Absolutely. There's a direct correlation with us, with Bitcoin and cleaning up the environment.
Workers transport the coal waste from several sites, the largest being the Swoyersville dump site near Wilkes-Barre. They separate usable coal from the massive piles and use it to generate electricity. Some power is sold back to the grid for profit. Most is used to power and cool this field of computer servers, all hooked up to the blockchain to help process Bitcoin transactions all around the world. The blockchain, an automated computer ledger for Bitcoin, grants Stronghold fractions of Bitcoin as a thank you in return. That is the digital mining part. Hold on, let me step outside so you can hear me. There are 80 trailers on site, each containing 64 computer servers, all of which have been mining Bitcoin for the 2 hours that we've been here. And in the span of that time, Stronghold estimates that they have mined about 1 Bitcoin, which, according to today's prices, means they earn more than $19,100.
It's a more sustainable way to do transactions.
Yes, this is not a zero carbon project. Stronghold is burning fossil fuels to power and air condition these hot, humming, super loud computer servers. But Spence points out Pennsylvania has millions of tons of leftover coal waste piled next to towns, polluting groundwater, sending ash toxins into the air.
And this material was dumped in these communities. What we do is we eradicate the problem.
Stronghold expects to have the 4 million tons of coal waste at the Swoyersville site cleared in a few years. Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection estimates it would cost more than $5 billion to clean up all of the state's abandoned mines. So it is happy to provide subsidies to companies like Stronghold, willing to get rid of the piles for taxpayers, even while running a profit. Now, if only the price of Bitcoin would go back to its highs of nearly $70,000 reached only late last year.
How cool is that? So literally using like waste and shit that was dumped there, destroying their neighborhood, cleaning it up with BTC. I was like, holy God, that's awesome. How could anyone not say that's a good thing? Like, how is there still FUD around that? It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of these types of projects that reuse wasted energy, essentially, whether it's like a coal sort of thing here, or flared gas, or methane, and also repurposing a lot of the heat that gets generated from this. Like, Bitcoin kind of forces us to be innovative in this sense, because we're searching for the cheapest source of electricity and power. So we have to do these things. We have to be creative. We have to look for wastage, so we can create those efficiencies. It's great. Like, we say this almost every week, like the classic saying, Bitcoin fixes this. It's like, yet another example of, a really abstract idea on the surface, reusing coal to power Bitcoin miners. But the net benefit is we secure the network, and then we also clean up the physical waste from these neighborhoods. Like you said, who could really argue with this?
It's insane. Well, and it's what I love about this. It's like they're doing what is it, Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
that their government has like failed to do, right? So like they've got this big waste just polluting everything, and it's just taking Bitcoiners to come along and go, oh, I can fix that cheaper than what you guys can do it for. It's just like unreal. Such a cool story. So it'd actually be cool to get these guys on if we can. We should reach out and see who's actually running the project, and
yeah,
it might be a good convo for an alpha podcast once we
sure.
kick off again. I reckon that'd be really cool. Doing something like that in Australia would be so cool, because there's so many resources here and so much going on. It's it seems like a place that would really sort of benefit without people realizing it. Right? It's like, I'm sure, like they had in their videos, like people had no idea in the community that there's even a Bitcoin mine there, but it's like helping them. So I'm sure there's heaps of projects like that we could do in Australia as well.
Yeah, we just have so much red tape here that
Yeah.
convincing people that this is a great idea or this isn't bad. Like they would just probably think it's bad for the environment. Look at the coal use. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a lot of this. Like we should have some of the cheapest energy in the world. Like the resources that we have, the sun, the wind, like the uranium. Like it boggles my mind that we're one of the most expensive countries in the world for power. Like it really shouldn't be that way. And hopefully over the coming years and decades, we pull our finger out and figure that out, because we're sitting on a honeypot of all that stuff, and we should really be the leaders in the world when it comes to power usage. But yeah, we just got our head up our own ass so far.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? There is a lot of red tape here. I mean, I'm in Victoria, so it's like red tape capital of the world. But like, yeah, it's kind of frustrating, because there's like, I know there's a lot of well-meaning people in those positions as well, and in government essentially. And if they could just see like the forest for the trees, basically, like we could do so much cool stuff here. But maybe you're right. Maybe it just takes time and persisting with education, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that point, that the vast majority of them probably are decent people that want to do like the right thing. It's that they've been corrupted, or they've got, they're idiots essentially, and they believe in the wrong thing. So whilst they think it's good and it's doing net benefit, they really have no idea what they're doing. You could probably say this with most professions, to be honest. Like I come across most professions don't actually act very professional, aren't very good at what they do. They just kind of going along for the ride. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe something like that we kind of I think it would have to be like, we'll have to eventually do that to remain competitive in the global market, because countries who are exploring these things will take over, and game theory will force us to play the game. So it's just a matter of, do we want to be proactive with this and be one of those leaders, or do we want to be one of those like followers? It's the decision is ours, I guess.
Playing catch up. Well, not ours, but yeah.
Not ours directly. The decision was ours. We'd be on the right path.
All right. So moving on. All right. So this dropped just after we got off last week. Mr. Kanye himself. I thought it was fake as well when I first saw it.
I didn't believe it.
If anyone hasn't seen it, he's worn it twice. Kanye West, who had his bank account closed by JP Morgan, who for some reason never closed Jeffrey Epstein's account, like strangely enough, but one tweet and they've cancelled Kanye West for some reason.
What was the actual tweet that got him cancelled from the bank?
I think it was a tweet, or I think it was a podcast actually, and he was
okay.
saying something derogatory about Jewish people, but he like clarified it later. I think like not meaning all Jewish people. I don't know. It didn't sound
right.
like...
So the woke police got him cancelled.
pretty much. And it ended up being JP Morgan, his bank account, which is just like, wow. But yeah, being the the instigator that he is, I suppose, gets a Satoshi Nakamoto hat to go and close his bank account at JP Morgan and walks out with it. I'm like,
Pretty
that's
good.
epic. It's
I think
epic.
he got. I saw something else pop up like over the last 24 hours where again I didn't watch it. Don't really look at news
Yeah.
of like famous people that much, but
Yeah.
someone I think asked him like something about Bitcoin, and like his response was, "I don't feel comfortable commenting on it yet because he didn't know enough about it." Did you hear about this
No,
or
I
did
haven't. No, not at
uh,
all.
maybe
Right.
fact check that? But that's I think what might have happened. But yeah, it got me thinking like, God, I'd like to be in the room like trying to explain Bitcoin to him. You know, like maybe I'm not the best person for the job, but it would be a fun time trying to like sit there with Kanye and be like, look, you know, this is. I feel like he's probably primed to get it, and to someone just needs to sit down and explain it to him and ask the
Yeah.
questions that he resonates with. I mean, yeah, firsthand now he probably gets it because of his bank accounts being shut. Someone
Yeah.
literally just needs to go, this can't happen with Bitcoin, and then he'd be like, oh, well, that's that problem solved.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fascinating. So yeah, we'll have to look into that and see if he actually did say that. But you would think the fact that he went in with a Satoshi Nakamoto hat to close his bank and was like wearing it the next day as well, out and about, you would think that would mean he understands like the relevance of that to a degree anyway, I suppose. You would have to, wouldn't you? It's pretty
Maybe he doesn't get it. I don't know. I guess
yeah.
we'll find out if he starts becoming like a voice of Bitcoin. But like my guess is he's probably just he knows like a high level understanding of crypto, Bitcoin, but like maybe he hasn't gone to like the deep
Yeah.
level of understanding where it's like censorship resistant. Why is it censorship resistant? What gives it its security? Like the deeper sort of things about Bitcoin. Maybe he just understands like the high level and he's like, okay, this will be cool. This will be a good. I mean, look, he's a showman too, right? Like he's an
Yeah,
entertainer.
yeah.
You know, like someone might have also told him, hey, how about going to
Could have been.
the
Could
bank
have been.
and wearing a Satoshi Nakamoto hat? This will create a storm. Like it's really hard to know.
Very true. Yeah, it could have been someone in his entourage or something saying, "Check this on. This will make some waves."
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, anyway, I thought it was awesome to see. Anyway, so hopefully, yeah, hopefully he goes down the rabbit hole and
Someone
yeah,
should orange pill him, you know,
orange
like
pill for sure.
he's primed to be orange pilled. Hopefully he doesn't go down the shit coining path. But
Yeah,
yeah, you would think he's got the right accessibility to the information and the people. I'm sure he could simply just call up Sailor and be like, hey, Sailor,
that's
fuck me
right.
up. Like, tell me what I need to know.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well, his ex-wife, what's her name, Kardashian, um, she got in some pretty hot water, I think, recently over some ICO or something she promoted
Yeah.
back in the day. So you'd have some
She copped
exposure.
a fine. Yeah, copped a
Yeah,
few $1 million fine for promoting some shit coin. Yeah. And there's more of these to come. But yeah, I think
yeah,
I saw something without going like too crazy on like a conspiracy theory vibe. Like I saw something else. I might have even been Kanye saying it. Again, fact check this, but like he said something along the lines of like Kim was like quite tight with like Hillary Clinton, and Hillary used to say like you should use your platform to say this. You're basically using her as like a a speaker on her behalf to
yeah. Like a
persuade
surrogate, right?
public opinion and all that sort of stuff. So I mean,
That's
this can't be much of a surprise. You know, we know that they probably do this through massive,
what the
not
the
probably,
Clinton
definitely
Foundation's
do
above
this.
board, aren't they? Yeah.
Look, I can't afford a defamation case, but maybe people do their own research. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
some questions for sure.
That's funny. Gosh, a surrogate ICO, ICO promoter. God, that's incredible. Oh well, that'll be worth checking out. But yeah, going back to Kanye, I thought that was such a cool thing, and I think probably like given what's happening with him, the whole Alex Jones thing. What's the other guy? Andrew Tate. Like they're all getting deplatformed, getting their bank accounts, PayPal, everything getting cancelled. If this is a trend that keeps continuing with these like uber rich, famous people, like it's only a positive, right? Like it can only be a good thing. Like in the people.
Wow, maybe not for them, but
No, but I mean, it's well in terms of the education, in terms of the learning, like it's a harsh lesson. I do notice, with what's his name, Alex Jones, like he had so back in the day, he got like a ridiculous amount of BTC from Max Kaiser. So Kaiser was on the show, and he like gave it to him, like 10,000 or something BTC, something
Whoa.
ridiculous, yeah. And he like just dismissed it, said he didn't like it, like didn't understand it, and that just like disappeared. So I think in retrospect, obviously, he would have been like, "Oh my god, like that was so much money. I should have, listened to you." Rah rah. And he has apologized to him and stuff. But I think now you look at his website, and it's got BTC donations that you can do.
Huh.
So he's come sort of full circle with that. So
Funny that.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Looking at the price, but I mean, I think they've all like going through. You shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to go through like horrendous stuff, like getting your PayPal shut or whatever it is. But if that's what it takes for these, sort of rich people to learn, then that's what it takes.
It's what we said a few weeks ago. It's the cost of education. So
Yeah.
we all buy and enter for the exact price and at the exact moment that we deserve to. No
Yep.
sooner, no later. So Alex had the opportunity with Max trying to orange pill him.
Yeah.
Didn't take it, and then has come back full circle after being deplatformed and got cancelled and all the stuff that Alex. He's now been fined, I think, as well. I think he had to pay like a court fine or something.
It's like 2 trillion this week. It's like
It.
what? Legit trillion with a T, and like the
I'm not following the story, so I don't know the
it's
ins and the outs
it's
very
funny.
much. Like
it's pretty, yeah. Well, the ins and outs of it, I think it's like it's similar to the Kanye thing. I think so. It's like around defamation or whatever. But yeah, basically they've multiplied how much he would have made from YouTube from whatever date it was where he said stuff till now, and that's like up to 2 point something trillion. So that's what they're going for. It's like,
so he hasn't actually made it. They're just like, hey, here's a projection of what we think you might have made. Now
yeah,
that's
well,
the
you
fine.
should have, yeah, and we'll have that. Thank you very much. It's like, wow. Insane.
Hey
Anyways,
Max, can I get another 10,000 BTC?
yeah, legit. Well, someone did donate to him. I dare say it'll be Max for sure.
Right.
The Madman Max. Switching gears anyway. I don't know if you saw this one. So the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, he's come out and said that he would prefer, and this is massive, right? Because he's the guy, Kawasaki's the guy who's like always been like property, buy property, borrow property, and borrow for property and rent it out, and that's how you get rich. He's recently come out and said he much prefers BTC to real estate.
Yeah,
Like,
I think he's finally probably understood it. And Saylor talks about this a lot. Like as Bitcoin is like property rights, digital property rights, and how it's like it's much more liquid, it's more portable, it's more divisible.
Yep.
You can, if you buy a house, you can't take it with you when you relocate your family to the other side of the world. You got to sell it, you got to pay tax on it, you got to, put it for listed. You got this. It's such a process, right? And so Bitcoin again fixes a lot of those inefficiencies. So I'm not surprised. I'm assuming this is his rationale once he's figured it out. But
yeah.
I'm familiar with him, of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I can't say I like look into his books that much or follow him all that much. But yeah, we always welcome new Bitcoiners.
Yeah, man.
I no longer recommend real estate. I recommend Bitcoin. Wow.
Yeah, like that's
So, where's the book? Let's see the book. I mean,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure this guy made his whole craft off his book, right? Like,
Yep.
So let's see him follow up with a revision of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. But I just thought that was so incredible. Like, I have seen some stuff with him because he's got like a few YouTube channels and whatever, and does interviews, and he was slowly getting there over the years. And it looks like he's just gone, like, I don't want real estate anymore. I just want BTC. So yeah, incredible for a guy like him. And he's older, right? Like, so he's been around for a long time. So for him to get it, it's pretty cool. He's a smart cookie.
I imagine that'll help influence a number of other people who have seen him as a trusted voice for the better part of
Boomers in
however long
particular.
he's been. Well, boomers, yeah, boomers in particular.
So that was that one. That was last week. Kanye again. There he is. Yeah, this was one.
Yeah, the
Oh,
woke
yeah.
police are at it again.
Wow. Wow. So, Commonwealth Bank linking customer transactions to carbon footprint. Now, I don't know how they're exactly doing that. I can only speculate, looking at like what you're spending your money on and how much emissions that's going to have. Like,
Yeah, it'd be like those things that where you pay a few extra bucks and it offsets your carbon footprint when you take a flight. Like it's that sort of marketing nonsense where because you shopped at this place and they have this many chains. There's some bullcrap algo that probably spit it into an Excel spreadsheet, depending on where you shop and all that sort of stuff. It's probably not very fine tuned. It's I imagine it would be quite broad. Like, electricity usage is at this rating of carbon footprint. Going to the cinemas is this. Going to the pub is that. And then you spit all that together, and here you go. Now you've just admitted the carbon emissions of, I don't know,
Small
a family
country.
of 5 or something. A small country, yeah.
Man.
This could be good. We could use this as fight against them.
yeah, legit. Well, yeah, pretty invasive. Like, I mean, even for a normie sort of looking at that, wouldn't you be like, why are you tracking my bank transactions and like making a
It was all
profile?
there already though, right? Like,
yeah,
it's them saying, hey, we've just found a new reason or another reason to have all this data of you. Like, they're already doing this now, but now they've just come out and said, oh, here's a cool little idea. Let's get like some ticks and some points on the woke police, and we'll do this whole carbon footprint thing, and the Greens will love us and the lefties will love us. And it's just, that's all I see it as. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's my understanding of this whole thing.
Yeah,
Besides
probably
the obvious
probably
privacy implications, but like I said, they're already there. They're now
Yeah.
just using this and marketing it in a different way.
Yeah, like to them it looks like a positive. So they're saying, oh, look what we're doing. This is
I
great.
think to a lot of people it will. It'll be like, oh, great. Now I can really do my bit. And people are sitting there on their monthly statements and going, oh, if I just cut out like takeaway once a week, it'll reduce my carbon footprint by 5%. Like, I mean, I don't know if people are actually going to do something like that, but like I imagine that's the idea, right?
That's the thinking behind it.
Hopefully it does what you said, and then it wakes people up and says, oh shit, like, why are they tracking my transactions? Like, even though like we know they've been already doing this for a long time, this might wake people up and say like, oh shit, like I don't want them doing that. Like,
like super creepy, super creepy. Hopefully most people can get that. I mean, and even just looking at it from a data perspective, right? Like, Energy Australia hacked last week.
Line them up one by one. They're all going to get hacked.
It's all honeypot.
Every single one of every single one of them. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
And like it blows my mind that it's like these companies are still sort of pursuing that, and the government like asking for more data. It's
that's
madness.
their solution to it as well. It's like, all right, shit, we asked everyone for their IDs and we held it in this server and it got hacked. Shit, maybe we should ask for more identification, more data, like put more data in there. Like, Jesus, like,
and somehow that makes
world.
sense to people. It blows my mind. Anyway, hopefully that sort of wakes people up. This was the other one that really creeped me out. The fact of sort of saying the quiet part out loud. So IMF chief says central bank digital currency should be used alongside social credit system to control what people can buy and whatever. But the fact that they're just putting that out there now, like it's been obviously a while. There's white papers from the World Economic Forum and Davos that have detailed out precisely what they want to do with the central bank digital currencies. But the fact that this is just like out in the open now for anyone to sort of read as if it's a good thing is incredible. Like, and in such a short space of time, blows my mind. Like, that there isn't more people up in arms about this sort of stuff.
People are just largely robotic. Like they just don't really care. They've got
Yeah.
enough distractions keeping them happy.
Yeah.
You know, your phone and social media and all the things that just keep us glued to the narrow path and don't allow us to see the peripheral vision. This is another one of the things. Like you shake your head at it and you go like the tweet says, like people have been saying this for years, and then been getting called, you know, crazy and conspiracy theorists, and here we are. And it's just like yet another example of, you know, often Bitcoiners claiming something like this could take place, and then here it is.
Here
So,
it is.
yeah, this is no surprise to me. I mean, I've been part of this crowd saying that this is bad, and I've been getting even more frustrated lately about the whole central bank digital currency stuff because, you know, Australia is quite a proponent for this nonsense, and we've got a number of organizations and companies and all that sort of stuff cheerleading the government along this path. And it, like, you know, entities like Blockchain Australia and stuff like that, you know, they go and sit in these roundtable discussions with the technology portfolio managers of the government, and you know, I can only imagine these discussions. But you know, they're all saying, "Oh, yeah, we think it's a great idea. You know, use blockchain and you know this and that, proof of stake, and you can issue central bank digital currencies, and it'll all be fast, and you know, all the bullshit nonsense crap." And the government probably going, "Oh, this is great. Like, you know, fantastic. We've got support from industry leaders that want to help us bring central bank digital currencies to life." That's what will convince us ultimately. Not me, of course, but the masses who don't really care about this stuff. It'll be easy to get them because, you know, there'll be all these tech people saying it's the future and all that sort of nonsense. So it's scary. It's really scary.
It is. Yeah.
I'll be opting out, but you know,
yeah, it's the scariest thing. It's the scariest thing that could happen, really, because I mean, it's basically what's happening in China, or has been for the last 5 years, but to the extreme, right? So it's not just like the government sort of, or you know, CCP telling you what you can and can't do, and if you do this, then you know you get a bad social credit score and things turned off and you can't travel. Rah, rah. This is like real time transactions, right? So it kind of goes back to the last tweet as well. So like watching what you're doing when you're
at the
doing
bottle shop trying to buy some beer for the weekend so you can have a little nice time with your friends, and then declined.
Yeah, exactly right. So no, not cool at all. The one thing I was thinking this last night actually, so that project Taro, I think it's called. So it's like the pegged USD on Lightning. If we could do something like that, I'd be all for a central bank digital currency with like atomic swaps. So it's like, all right, you get your sats, you get your sats every month into your wallet, and you know it's in AUD, but you can atomic swap directly into BTC. I'd be all for that. The people who want to keep it in, you know, the pegged AUD, sweet, that works. But you can atomic swap back and forth. That would be fine. So if we could sort of approach these, as you say, roundtable groups.
Yeah, but why do we need the government at that point? Like,
yeah,
the issue of these pegged AUD things is what, like just a open protocol, right?
It's open protocol, yeah, 100%. Well, I think you still need the government in place for that piece for all the normies, right? So the people who just want the government paycheck, or you know, their Centrelink or whatever it is, cool. Yeah, you can still get that. It just looks a little bit different. If you want to do the learning to make that currency flip into something that actually you can use all over the world, is interoperable with all these different cool technologies, and do a bit of education around it, you can do that, right? So it's like a learning path. I think there's place for that. The opposite to whatever the hell this is going to be, though. Like, I think I'm probably dreaming, but we could do like a social system that could work for a lot of people, and I think like even going back to like something like UBI and doing that over proof of work, I'd still be an advocate for that. So like we were talking about, like Australia's like rife for free energy, pretty much, or really cheap energy. If we could get, proof of work into every household with solar or whatever it is, government backed, I'd be all for that. Here's a UBI, here's your hardware, let's do it. And if you don't want that, here's your central bank digital currency, but pegged to
which you
pegged
can't use
to-
anywhere.
you can't use anyway. That's right. Anyway, I can dream. The last one I wanted to go into, yeah, Sailor's one. You got to watch that. It's he nails it again as he always does. Was this one here? I thought, this is so cool. So obviously from the obituaries from
Of course.
2012, yeah, price $2. 2011. Price of BTC $2. The bursting of the Bitcoin bubble.
It's funny that you'd think the economists would be quite good when it comes
Yeah.
to like understanding money and financial world, and they seem to have gotten this quite wrong. $2 to what? I don't actually know what the price is right now, but tens of thousands. They kind of they fucked that one up.
They certainly did. But
that rider's been sacked.
I don't reckon.
Nah, probably not.
I reckon he'll do another one.
Yeah, they're probably like chief editor now.
yeah, exactly right. But it's just so funny, isn't it? Like looking back, you're like time and time again, even at $2, right? So it's dropped to $2, whatever. It'd still back then be the number one currency in the world in terms of value. Right? So it's worth more than any other currency, and they're still saying the bubbles burst. It's amazing that this is still a narrative. It's incredible. And the whole tulip thing that keeps rearing its head again. It's like, wow, madness.
They've been doing it for the better part of 10 years, as we can see, if not longer.
Yeah.
But I think I find it kind of beautiful as well. Like literally, like mainstream media has been at Bitcoin trying to put it down for 12 years, throwing everything they can at it. You know, for better part of like an infinite level of like deep pockets in order to fund these kind of campaigns. And Bitcoin has nothing in terms of its defense. It does not have a PR team. It doesn't have a communications team that can come out and put anti-FUD articles out there. It doesn't have anyone. It's just the community itself, us as advocates that have fought back on these things, and the network itself proving all of these things wrong over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like that amount of battle testing is second to none. Like no other network has been, probed over and over and over again, been, told that it was dead hundreds of times only to resurface back to life. I think no other crypto has that. Like,
no,
I'm not sure if any other crypto could withstand that. Could withstand 10 plus years of everything being thrown at it. You're a criminal. It's bad for the environment. The price is dead. Like every single FUD piece that's happened over the course of the last 12 years.
Yeah.
I don't think any other network would be able to withstand that. I'm pretty sure that they would all crumble. And they have teams to address these things too, right? Like they do have communications teams. They do have PR agencies working for them, making sure that they get that right narrative and message out. That Bitcoin doesn't have any of that, and it's managed to, navigate that. I think it's incredibly impressive.
Well, the thing that I'd liken it to would be like the Linux kernel. So like Linus Torvalds creating that on his own, pretty much, and releasing it free. And it was, at first, it did have a massive like pump, like in the 90s or whatever, for the Linux Foundation, I think. But like that getting broken and fixed and broken and fixed and broken and fixed over and over and over again, completely open source. Now it's the hardest OS in the world, and it's in everything. It's in your fridge. It's all over the place. It's the same sort of concept, right? So it's like a network of software, open source software that millions of people contribute to, and obviously there's a lot of different distributions of Linux, but the core of it sort of remains the same, specifically because it's open source and there is no owner. I really think that everything needs to go that way. Like the concept of intellectual property, I think, is disgusting and it holds everything back. And copyright, I think, is stupid. I think we need everything to be open source 100%. And that's how you build stuff. That's how you build good projects. It's how you build a good society, is by creating open source projects. And I think like it's a testament. So hopefully we start seeing a trend for that in all other areas of life, because as soon as you start working on open source projects in an open source way, things just flourish, and it's the way to go. But
I
yeah.
share that narrative. Of course, open source. I'm a big believer that the open and decentralized protocols will always win, like the internet protocol did. I believe the Bitcoin protocol will do the same thing. This is perhaps a conversation for another time, but the point that everything should be open sourced. I've not done like a lot of thinking in terms of like beyond say software, but like, oh, I don't know how deep you're thinking. This is perhaps a philosophical. Yeah, well, everything is kind of everything, right? So, I'm keen to maybe go down that rabbit hole with you one time and see like, what do you actually mean about everything? What does
well, the big,
source
obviously,
everything look like?
the big one to me would be education, right? So at the moment, you
Yeah.
have people taking ownership, institutions owning intellectual property, owning content as accredited courses that you have to pay these institutions to actually do. Open source a lot of it. It should be free. It should be open for people. That doesn't mean you don't pay people, to teach you to learn, the same way you would pay an engineer to build a Linux network for you. But the actual content is open source, right? So open source curriculum across the board, it should all be on GitHub. There shouldn't be anything not, or GitLab, whatever you want to use. If you're not down with Microsoft, which is fair enough. Look, I mean, Microsoft OS should be open source. I know they've open source parts of it, but yeah, everything across the board. I think the sooner we do that, the better off everyone's going to be. You're not going to have rent seekers like sitting on top of stuff that isn't really theirs. Like, no one really builds anything, right? So even look at BTC, it's built off a whole bunch of other projects and technologies brought into this one protocol, and that's the same across the board. So anyone claiming, dare say like Craig, yeah, like, people like that saying that they own this thing. It's like, no, you don't. And even if you were Satoshi, you didn't create everything in there. You built on the shoulders of others. So yeah, when you can do that, you can see really cool stuff getting built. And when you don't, projects die.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we should explore this idea of decent or not, like open sourcing everything essentially. But I guess you mentioned Craig. I saw a funny thing pop up on Twitter today, which we might end on for a bit of a laugh. But
we don't want to get sued. So.
No, we definitely want to get sued. So fact check this, because and I guess I'm not entirely sure whether it's true, but and Twitter was kind of doing its thing by probing and fact checking itself. But Craig had posted like a photo of a number of different university identifications. So when you sign up to go to uni, they give you a student ID or whatever. He's always got a lot of education, a lot of degrees, and he shows that off and he showcases that. And so he posted this photo of all these IDs, all these universities from around the world, London, all over the place. And someone honed in and realized that one of the particular identifications, so they're all the same, right? Like the university uses the same template. You just insert the photo, change the name, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And so everyone else was saying, "Oh, my identification for this university says like Mr. or Miss," and Craig's didn't. It just said Craig Wright. It just said Craig. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing on that same ID was that the image itself was of a different dimension to everyone else's. So he had used what appeared to be like the standard passport photo. I don't know if this is like a universal thing or just an Aussie thing. Perhaps it probably is a universal thing, but like the standard passport photo, whereas like the university actually had a slightly smaller photo, obviously their system scales it differently. And so people were putting it up next to real ones saying like, is this also real? The image is different, doesn't use Mr. Like that seems like a bit of a sloppy kind of oversight.
Yeah.
So yeah, jury's out whether he actually even attended that university. I'm not sure, but like,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
thought
incredible.
that was Craig. Just always seems to find something, right? Like like every time he says something, people always go, "Oh, how legitimate is that?" So, and he obviously lost his case against Hodlnaut as well
Hodlnaut, yeah.
recently, which
Which is awesome. Really, really cool. Like,
yeah,
props to the community for supporting that. I think that's
100%.
massive. And I think there's a lot of lawsuits that we're not aware of as well, like with people sort of defending the BTC network and the code from patent trolls and that sort of thing. Which again, like I think needs to go. Like it just
Yeah.
holds everything back. It's disgusting, really. It's like rent seeking, but rent seeking at its worst because it's at the detriment of everybody else, right? Like you have, if I mean, it's one thing to be doing it with like some small company or whatever, like a bridge toll or whatever. Who cares? But like when it's software that affects every single person on the planet, you shouldn't be allowed to even go near that. I think it's ridiculous. There should be laws that you have to open source it. The only laws I'd abide by for that. I think it's or
Can't imagine the government wanting to open source what they do. Like if we truly found out their procedures, we'd be like, oh fuck. Might not vote those guys in next time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is a good one, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran.
Thanks for jumping in. Now you're off next week, aren't you? No.
No, I'll be in Melbourne on Monday. I'm coming home Monday. We might have to reschedule the time that we record next week, just because I might be in transit. And then same with the week after as well. I'm heading to LA for the little conference run that I'm doing in America and Central America. So yeah, we might have to change the times a little bit, but we should still be able to catch up.
That's cool. Well, we've got our seed signer interview if you can make it on the, I think it was the 8th or something.
8th or 9th. Yeah, I'll be in LA at the time, but that should work for me. I think it's 2 p.m, so that's perfect for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, looking forward to that. That'll be, I think, our next guest on in 2 weeks' time.
That'll be super fun.
I don't actually know who it is from Seed Signer.
No, neither do I. I just know it's the Seed
Anon.
Signer.
All right. Cool.
It's like BTC something at Gmail. So
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Well, that should be an interesting discussion.
Hell yeah. Have you had a play with Seed Signer?
No, I haven't. I saw one in person at a meetup, at a Bitcoin Sydney meetup. Probably a couple of months ago. Guy was just sort of tinkering with different bits of hardware and he had done some cool stuff. But other than that, no, I actually haven't used it myself. You have, I think?
No. So I've got one waiting for me at Tiggs's place. So I've got to go over and get building. We got one each. So
nice.
Yeah, the parts are kind of hard to come past now because like everyone's just bought up all Raspberry Pi Zeros and all the hardware for it because it's all open source, so you can build it yourself. So yeah, he put an order in and it finally came through. So nice. I'll have to make time to go and set it up beforehand so we can have a chat about it. But what I'm most excited about, and we can get into a discussion on the day, is like those kids at my school who are actually looking at building their own Bitcoin wallets with Raspberry Pi Zeros that we got as part of the donation to BTC. Like they wanted to do that specifically for a project, and it didn't quite work in the end. So the 3D printing stuff, and it was all kind of falling apart. But they were really interested in it. So now the fact is a company or an open framework to do that's like legit instead of people just trying to hack it together themselves.
That would have helped back then, huh?
Oh yeah. It was me and like this kid MTR, this really smart kid. Trying to put it all together. We're like, no, it doesn't work. Sorry, man. So yeah, very, very cool. Awesome, man. Well, I'll let you go and we'll hopefully chat next week at some stage.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Cheers.